People joining from all over. Why don't we get started? I'll keep admitting people while you two talk, but I'll start with welcoming everybody today to today's second session of the Early College and Career Awareness Week by CFES Growing Pathways. Today's session titled Exploring Careers in Science and Healthcare, which that is a broad topic. And one of our goals is to expose students to as many career opportunities within healthcare and science, which is, again, quite large. So I'm very excited that I have two guests today that do represent certainly different career fields, but ones we think would be very interesting to a lot of our students. And I'll admit, some of the careers at both your organizations I was unaware of even through some of adulthood. So I think it'll be good to explain what they are. We have Barry Lampe, who's Community Engagement and Science Communications Manager with ECCAW in Burlington, Leahy Center for Lake Champlain. A lot of students in Vermont are well aware of ECCAW and have made trips there. I'm not sure they're aware of all that goes on there and internships and jobs that are available there. So I'll let Barry talk a little bit about that. Secondly, Jennifer Hipsley, University of Vermont Children's Hospital. It's kind of a hospital within the hospital of UVM Medical Center. She's a child life specialist, which is a job that is very important to families, and I'll let her talk more about that. But I'll say in my own personal experience, I've had a daughter, and we have another member of the CFES family whose son was just there not too long ago and couldn't have talked more glowingly about the work that you do with families and children. So why don't I start with you, Jennifer, and maybe you can talk a little bit about your own pathway and a little bit about your how you got into your work currently.
Yeah. So I'm so glad to be here and talk about child life. Because when I first was going to college, I had never heard of child life. I actually thought I wanted to be a business major and was trying out business and realized that was not for me. And it was not until I spoke to a guidance counselor at the school and I was explaining that I had seen a commercial on TV for St. Jude's Children's Hospital, and I saw people playing with kids. And I thought, I think I want to play with kids in the hospital. Is that something that you volunteer for? Like, I just didn't know. And he said, no, that's what it's called, child life. And I said, what? And I was living in Central New York, and he said, there's a school, Utica College in Central New York, that has a great program for this, and it teaches you all about playing with kids in hospital and even more. And so I transferred into Utica College, and I took classes in psychology, sociology, physiology, and anatomy, and I learned all about different things, and I did a practicum, and I did an internship. So I got to volunteer at different places and different hospitals to get to learn to see what it was like to be a child life specialist. And so while I was there, I got to learn that I was there to help kids and process being in the hospital. So make it so that the hospital was not such a scary place. And the way I did that was through play. And that was one of the big things we do. But we also do a lot of education and support for families. So when they come into the hospital, they're not scared and they know what's happening, because oftentimes this is a new thing coming in. And so we give them that education, and we do that through medical play. We do that through procedural support. And we really just kind of help kids kind of navigate through going through the hospital.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a good description of it. A lot of people are sort of have an idea of what it is, but aren't entirely sure, and it's really all-encompassing. Barry, let's again, we're switching between really two different professions, but both working with a lot of children in different ways, for sure, and young people. But Barry, if you could talk a little bit about ECCAW and your pathway and some of the career opportunities there.
Sure. My path, beginning in college, I knew I was always interested in environmental issues. I started off by going to college for human nutrition, and then switched very quickly to political science with a focus on water quality issues and energy issues. And so following college, I did an internship in Washington, D.C., and ended up staying there for a number of years, working on water quality issues, energy efficiency, industrial pollution, and issues like that. I moved up to Vermont to make a quality of life decision. Many of the times I was looking for jobs. I was going to move where the job was. And for the first time, I decided to make a quality of life decision and moved where I wanted to be, and then found a job that I was looking for here in Vermont. Worked on a variety of issues here, including land use planning, the water quality, energy efficiency. And so it's been a great experience learning about a lot of issues. And my role now in ECCAW, working for Leahy Center for Lake Champlain, is all about helping people understand, care, and act to protect our water resources in Vermont. We all have an intimate relationship with water. We use it every day. It's part of us. We are part of a system, a water cycle that is key to life, and so a lot of people take it for granted. So really what we're trying to do is get people to understand the issues, care about them, and take action in their personal lives, their business, and their community. I also work at ECCO on education. I work at our school outreach program to help with STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math. Helping folks around different parts of the states get a great education in that area so they're well prepared for careers to hopefully remain in state. At ECCO, there are a number of different jobs. We have a number of different departments. We have an animal care staff that takes care of fish, frogs, toads, all kinds of marine life, aquatic life. We have guest services. Welcoming people into the building. We have an education staff that helps people understand the importance of not only the lake and its resources, but science in general. We also have a development office, which helps raise funds for the work we do, and a communications staff. And in all of those departments, we have opportunities through what we call an E-team, which is our high school program to allow high school students to get a chance to see what's going on in the museum and teach some of the programs and get their hands dirty doing that. And then we also have internships available, our Leahy Scholars Program, to have college interns participate in any one of those departments.
Thanks, Mary. Yeah, that's a lot more opportunities than I think people realize exist. Just, you go to ECCO and you see all these things that are going on. But I'll go to Jennifer on this one, but Barry, I'll come back to you and you can explain a little bit of how a pathway to some of those positions, what our students might need to do to get there. Jennifer, in your case, it's a pretty interesting field. I know it's emerged over the years, and colleges and universities are adding specific majors and programming around that. I think it's interesting the term psychosocial needs of the family and the student, sort of the all-encompassing work that you do. If you could talk a little bit about, maybe give an example or talk about your work with a family coming to the hospital, and just give people a little idea of if they were to pursue a career like yours, what it might be on a day-to-day.
Yeah, and absolutely. So my day-to-day is currently I've been here at this hospital for 2 years. I've been in child life for over 21 years. I worked at hospitals in Florida and in Texas. I've worked in various areas. So I've seen kids when they've come to the hospital for surgery. I've seen kids when they have to come to the emergency department, kids who have cancer, kids who have had bone marrow transplants, kids who are in our intensive care unit. So I get to work with kids and families in a variety of different areas. And so right now, my job is I work on our inpatient unit. So that means when kids have to come to the hospital and they have any kind of surgery, I'm there to help prep them for surgery. And what that means is I talk to them about what that surgery is going to include. What is it going to feel like for the patient? So before surgery, they're going to have an IV. And I go through all the steps so they understand what's going to happen to them. And I can actually go back into the operating room with them when they fall asleep from the anesthesia. So it's really cool because you get to do a lot of education with the family, but at the same time, I get to do fun stuff. So if the kids might be a little nervous after doing the education, I've got bubbles, I've got my iPad, I've got jokes to tell. So it's really helping that psychosocial. So you're doing, and you're working with the parents and their siblings as well. So I get to help those kids, and I work in the emergency department here. So kids come in, and that's a scary thing. And immediately, all these people are here, and I get to walk in with my bubbles. And usually I have like some kind of music, or I have games. I have an I Spy board, and all of a sudden the kids are like, "Wait a minute, I can still be a kid. I'm not so scared." And so the doctors still get to come in and do everything, but I get to bring in the fun stuff. So there's that education piece, but there's also that fun piece. So it's really a great combination of getting. I get to do a lot of different things. I also get to do outreach, so I get to go into the community and talk to schools. And when kids are having to go back to school after they've been in the hospital for a while, is talk to classrooms. So again, there's that other piece, and then I get to do some really fun things. We get to work with people in the community. And so we get to do holiday parties. We have a big Halloween party. We have people come and do donations. We have sports teams come to visit the hospital. We have pet therapy. We have art therapy. So I get to work with all these different people. And the goal is to help kids understand why they're in the hospital, but to remind them that they're still kids. Even though they're in the hospital, we still want them to have fun. We still want them to play as they feel up to it. And that's what I get to do.
That's great to hear. I know a lot of our students are like, we tell them about, kind of give them a little background on what it is. They think, oh, that's really heavy, and I don't know if I can, handle it. Mm-hmm. But to hear you talk about it, I mean, it is heavy, but it's also a lot of fun.
It is. And you know what, you get to know the families, you get to know the kids, we get to help them celebrate their birthdays. And I think with a lot of jobs, when you have a hard day, it's a hard day. But we hear a lot is that kids don't want to leave the hospital because they're having so much fun. And we know, we're like, okay, that's really cool that we were able to have that impact on kids. And hopefully, so the next time they have to come to the hospital or they come to the emergency room, they won't be as scared. So they have a little bit of a better understanding. And that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing. And like I said, from firsthand experience, I had no idea all of the things that you do. And it's really good for our students to hear. I think it's really eye-opening. And it's interesting. Again, we're talking about two very different professions, but talking about making kids really happy and not wanting to leave a place. ECCAW also very high on the list. Kids who have been there know what it is. They kind of come in and they see all these things. But are there any specific jobs there that you think they might be interested in, and how they might even get into it?
Sure. First, I want to say thank you to Jennifer and everybody that does the work that she does, because most people do not want to go to the hospital. But when you are there, you want people like Jennifer there for you, because some people describe the people in the medical profession as wizards. The stuff that is done, I participated in something called community rounds, where people in the healthcare profession get to go into the hospital and see what's done day to day. So anybody who does that, or anybody who goes into the hospital, is just thankful for the incredible work that's being done in those walls. So thank you for that. The work at ECCAW is really varied, and it's just fascinating because, again, if you're interested in guest services, anything in the hospitality industry, for example, we have a staff that is customer facing, and the skills and the training that they need is the kind that welcomes people into the building, is inclusive, and really engages people to participate in the work that's going on in the museum. So even somebody in the hospitality industry can get a job or an internship at ECCAW and be in that kind of guest services position. On the education side, we do what's called informal education, and so it's not classroom education, but it's teaching the public about science and the importance of science in our daily lives, and learning about different ecosystems and how we fit into those ecosystems. So there's that kind of animal care, and as well as the education piece, but it's also education about physics and chemistry and biology. So there's that, and then again with our communications department, we have internships for people who do graphic design and do our signs and our ads on TV and social media. So there's that. I coordinate a biennial Leahy Environmental Summit every other year, and we need somebody who's interested in trained in learning about event management. So it's really kind of a wide variety of both public-facing as well as kind of the back of the house opportunities. And we have this, as I said, we have an E-team, which is for high school students, and high school students spend either a semester or the year with us, and they learn all different facets of the museum, and it culminates essentially in a day when all of the E-team people run the exhibits and programs in the museum. So there's that kind of well-rounded experience for high school students, as well as specific opportunities and jobs for people in the different departments.
Yeah, any students on now that would want to reach out to Barry, we can provide information to become an intern or take advantage of that opportunity. I'd point out too, Barry, you do a lot of community outreach, and we had some things planned pre-COVID where you bring your trucks full of all kinds of interesting STEM equipment, and you go to schools and the whole community comes out, and we plan to keep doing that. Can you just tell a little bit briefly about one of those events and what they're like so our students can get a feel?
Sure. They're called Community STEM Nights. They're geared towards rural schools around Vermont, elementary schools, and we essentially have a big box truck. We bring a science museum in a truck. We fill a gymnasium with all kinds of interactive things for those kids to do and learn about science concepts. At the same time, we're partnering with folks like John and Brilliant Pathways to have other college and career path resources for the rest of the family that's in the space. So we have internship opportunities, we have apprenticeship opportunities, we have folks who are looking at alternative career paths other than college, getting credentials of value to learn certain trades, and as well as resources for adults for retraining and certification so they can be on track, for example, to go into an LNA program, licensed nursing assistant program, or registered nurse program, that track to begin a career or just to start a new career.
Yeah, that's there's so many opportunities there. When I think about, Jennifer, your job, I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about if students are like, well, how would I get into this field? And some think, am I a psychology major? Like, what do I do to get into it? If you could talk a little bit about, if they're interested to learn more about it, and then what the path might be.
Yeah, so when I first started, it was hard to find child life programs. But because child life is found in all children's hospitals in this country, but also around the world, so this is an international profession. And so there are a lot of there are more child life programs, but also getting into child psychology, family studies, child studies. I actually have my bachelor's degree in child life because that's the school that I went to actually offered that. And so we've got a great organization, and childlife.org is our website, and it talks about all the different requirements that are needed. So it's getting that bachelor's degree, and one of those degrees that I talked about, but then there's also certain courses that they want you to take. So they want you to have some knowledge, and that could be even learning medical terms, that's doing child psychology, and doing family studies. So there's some different courses, and then you do a practicum and an internship, and you would do that at different hospitals. You can do that at a hospital in your area, or you could do that at a hospital if you had family living in California and you thought you'd like to do that. And so those opportunities of practicum and internship are really there for you to observe and to learn the different skills as being a child life specialist. Once that's completed, then you actually go for a certification exam and you become a certified child life specialist. So there are some steps, but you're finding it more throughout the country. It's much easier to gain these degrees, which is awesome.
There are quite a few questions. I'm seeing one, and a few people have asked me, how much medical? As some kids are like, well, I'm not very good in science, or I couldn't be a medical. Is there a little bit?
So I can tell you, I always wanted to go into nursing, but science was really difficult for me. And I thought, okay, that's probably not the field. But I loved that piece of it. I loved the kind of teaching and getting to learn. And so there is some science, but there's not a lot. I took anatomy and physiology, I took 2 courses, but most of it is kind of in that psychosocial, in the sense that it's the sociologies and the psychologies. So there was not too much science, but I think that's what's also great about Child Life is you learn about all these different medical procedures and different things that are happening in the hospital, and then you get to then teach it to the kids. So you kind of get the best of both worlds.
And John, I would also note that I do not have a science background either.
Yes, yeah. You talk well about it, though. That's good.
Science communications.
That's right. That's your job. Yes. We did have a question. It's Miriam Brooks, curious asking where you went to college, Jennifer.
I went to Utica College, which is in Utica, New York.
Yeah, and do they have a program there? I'm assuming that's.
Yeah, they've got a Child Life program, and I like to brag that it's probably one of the best in the country, just because I went there. But it's great. It's not a huge school, but I loved it. And I will also say Wheelock College, which is part of Boston University, is also a well-known school for Child Life.
Good. Yeah, Barry and I always say that University of Massachusetts Amherst is the best because we both went there. So. That's, even though it's not.
That's a great school too.
Another question, George Rogers asking, my wife has a BA degree in biology. What options for employment would she have in the North Country?
For Child Life?
Yeah.
Well, what I would say for that, if anybody's asking me is that we talked about there's certain coursework that you would need to take. So yes, you've got your degree, but then within that degree, did you meet all the criteria? So there's 10 different courses that is listed on this Child Life website. And then they talk about that. So that's what would be needed to be able to pursue a career in Child Life, because they do need that certification. So you would need to have those classes to be able to get that certification.
Okay, gotcha. Barry, and at ECCAW, these summer opportunities you have, we've talked about it before, there's quite a few. Do you often get students from the area, say UVM? Do you ever come over to Plattsburgh? I mean, do you get interns from the area schools?
Sure. We have an internship program that pretty much tracks with the school years. So we have them. We have students that are working with us for the semester, fall or spring, and then through the summer. And somewhat competitive. So if you're interested, apply early and often.
Yeah. Okay. I'll share that. We switch gears just a little bit. I'll stay with you, Barry, and then go back to Jennifer. As you know, Barry, we emphasize what we call the essential skills. Jennifer, you probably know them as soft skills. Just non-academic in many ways. Perseverance, agility, leadership, networking, to name a few. We have a lot of companies that we work with say, we can teach them the job, but we really need them to have certain, communication skills and other things that are critical to our success. What are some of the essential skills, Barry, you would say, and I think it's probably wide-ranging given the different number of positions there, but what are some essential skills you'd look for in a young person that's coming to you to work there?
Certainly, working within a team is one of the biggest kinds of assets and skills that someone can have in our workplace as well as any, because you're not working alone in a vacuum, and so we have many different projects where people are working in between departments. So you may work on a particular project, but your project may involve other departments. So as an example, if you're working in the education department as an education intern, there will be promotion and social media and communications tools and advertising that support that program. So the person might need to be working with our development and communication staff on the education project itself. In addition, people come into the programs through our guest services, essentially through the front door. And so they need to have an understanding and communication with our guest services folks. If those education programs involve animals, we have live animal demonstrations, then you'll need to be connecting with animal care people and understanding how the animal is cared for and what its habitat is like and considerations like that. So pretty much, the advice is that you kind of need to be a jack of all trades. And be flexible and be a good team player, because very few of us work alone.
How about you, Jennifer?
I was going to say Barry did such a great job. I would say teamwork, absolutely, because we work with nurses, doctors, physical therapists, respiratory therapists. So you're working among a team. Being flexible. You can have a plan for when a patient is supposed to go to surgery or something's going to happen in the hospital, and then everything changes. So it's kind of being able to flex, or you have a plan, you're going to go with a patient, but an emergency popped up, and so now you've got to go be with another patient. So it's being able to kind of turn on a dime. It's having that empathy and listening to families and being able to listen to them, because sometimes parents just need to talk. We're not social workers. Child life specialists work with social workers, but sometimes we're there to be able to talk. I would say have fun, be able to just be silly. And that's an important thing. And I think just the communication, it's talking to the team members, talking to the patients. But we always talk about flexibility and teamwork, because I think, we don't work alone, and we really count on each other. So, but I always love to throw the fun part in too.
Yeah.
I think the flexibility, building on the flexibility piece, I think if there's one thing the last year has taught us all is we need to be flexible. As an example, we have at ECCAW put into place probably no less than 10 different budgets and plans that had to be carried out, only to have things change 3 weeks later. And so I think being agile and flexible, as Jennifer is saying, is key to success, because not everything goes as planned. There's internal and external factors that are always changing.
Yeah, agility sounds like definitely a top of the list. I think it is interesting, all the different, even your two career paths and what you do are really different. Every time we have a guest speaker on from somewhere, there's a lot of these similar skills that you need no matter what you're doing, and we try and emphasize that to students, and some exercises specifically geared toward these, specific essential skills. And sometimes they already have them and they're unaware. Like, they are a leader. All of them were quite agile during COVID, right? They not so, but I think have a lot more these skills, and they're aware and they can develop. I'm still developing. It's a lifelong process for sure. And I have a lot of time left, so I want to get to a few more questions quick. From third graders in Mariah, how did you know you wanted to work in child life? Where did you originally go to school? So maybe back it up even to high school.
Yeah, so I went to high school in Hamilton, New York, at Hamilton Central School, and I didn't know I wanted to be in child life until I was about in my second year in college, and after talking with somebody and seeing a commercial. So I had never heard of child life before, and luckily people are hearing about it more often, because you're seeing it more in the children's hospitals. And I always tell people, if they're not sure kind of what child life does, is if you've ever seen a commercial for children's hospitals and they talk about bringing toys in, or you see the fun things, that's what child life does too. Like, even if they don't mention us or they talk about nursing a lot, child life is a big part of children's hospitals, and it's pretty awesome to be on the team.
Got a shout out to Hamilton from Dylan and Salati here. The New York side, loving your roots. Barry, someone asking a little more about how schools can use the ECCAW STEM mobile, the trucks, and the whole.
Sure. How schools can use them?
Yeah, just sort of maybe tell a little more about it. What does that look like? Because I know you said the whole community comes out, parents, other organizations. It's like a huge event.
Sure. Well, what we do is we work with both the teachers in the schools to make sure that the activities that we have fit with the curriculum and what's going on in the particular school semester. But we're also, attuned into the communities to see what kinds of issues are kind of at play there, and where the need is. So we're looking to go to places where people are interested in learning about science, and interested in finding career paths where they can stay in their communities or in the state.
Thanks. Yeah. I'm looking forward to those. I'm sure you can't wait to get out again and the house and do some stuff in the schools.
Yeah. The one thing I also wanted to point out about, just kind of the general messaging is that we often think about going to places like ECCAW or to UVM Medical Center as places where we can learn things. I think it's as much about the people that we connect with. It's about cultivating relationships and finding mentors and people that interest you and inspire you.
Yeah, definitely. That's what we all hope for sure. Only a few minutes left, but I'd love to leave it with Jennifer. Wanting to go to you. Any words of advice, inspiration, anything you might have for our young students in terms of them kind of persevering and maybe finding out their passion and how to stay on track.
You know what? I would always say never give up. And it may take a couple of tries. It took me a couple of tries to honestly figure out what I wanted to do because I didn't know. And you hear that saying, I didn't know what I didn't know. I started in one direction and did a full 180 and absolutely love what I did. I went to a couple of different colleges, and that was not my plan originally. But it took me a couple of different colleges and talking to different people. So don't ever give up. I think that's probably my biggest thing, and go after your dreams. And I think it's so great with the research, and reach out to people. If you've heard about a career, just look on different websites. The hospital website has our child life information. People email us all the time. They just want to hear about what child life is about. And that would be true in other careers as well. So really just go out and seek that knowledge. Because there is so much out there. And I feel like if you find out about one thing, it leads you down a path to the next. So don't ever discount it, but don't give up on yourself. That would be my biggest thing.
Thank you. Yeah. That's, Barry, any advice?
Meet the people who do the work, explore, make those connections, try new things, don't stop learning, don't stop discovering. You get to be folks like our age, and we still have a lot to learn and we still have a lot to discover. So just keep trying new things and going new places and meeting new people. And eventually, they say it's a crooked road to get where you're going, and it's not going to be a straight line.
No. Thank you. Yeah. That's a perfect way to end it for our students to kind of food for thought to think about as they look forward to their own future endeavors. If any of them want to reach out to you for more information or just to find out more what you do, if it's okay, we'd love to share your information if they want to reach out. And we'd love to talk further. We have some webinars coming up that love to customize some on child life and other things that you're doing, Barry. So thanks to both of you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thanks, everyone.